Welcome to Watercolor Studio 42, and today I'm going to do something a little bit different. Normally I start off with a sketch, use like a regular pencil, 2B pencil, whatever, and today I'm going to just start off kind of with sketching with the brush. Now, you could try different experiments off and on about different things that you work with, but sometimes the experiments, they don't work out as well. Sometimes you have to do a few things until you get kind of used to what the paint and the combination the paint and water will do and whatnot. And it's very important to let certain things dry out before you start painting into that area. In other words, you can't keep going wet in wet because the paint kind of tends to mix on the surface, or it just bleeds in and runs into the other color. If you're trying to sometimes get a real sharp edge, well, you can't put a wet onto wet and expect that paint to stay in the place. It's going to smudge and blur. And a lot of people, they get frustrated with watercolor because they probably should have maybe a little bit more patience with it and let some of that paper dry. Now, what I did prior to all of this, I have put some tape around the outside, or I should say on the inside, the width of the tape, and it makes sort of a false white mat around it when I remove the tape. But another thing too, a lot of times I'll just take the largest brush I have, and I'll just dip it in and just give the paper a wash. And what that does, it sort of relaxes the fiber of the paper, and so your watercolors slide around and settle in a little faster. Now, I was thinking some of the subjects, we're into September already, I should say almost finishing up September. My gosh, the months fly by fast. It seems like you change the calendar and all of a sudden it seems like you're probably a week or two later you're changing the calendar to another month. But we're into the latter part of September and so forth. We're on the doorstep of October. So I think this time of year there's a lot of harvesting going on. I know that a lot of the apple orchards, they're opening it up to the public and having the public pick their own apples. That's kind of fun to do. And then, of course, potatoes. Maine, the state of Maine is really big into potatoes. There's one whole section up in the upper part of Maine there, Worcester County or whatever it was. But they actually would give the students maybe a 2-week later start with school because of the harvesting of the potatoes, Maine potatoes and whatnot. So I thought I'd do a little bit of kind of winging it today, and probably do like a little bit of still life of some of the vegetables that we would be harvesting this time of year. And pumpkins are big, aren't they? We're really into pumpkins, so I'll sneak a pumpkin in there somewhere or two, and maybe some potatoes and whatnot, and apples, of course. Okay, so much for talk. Today I'm going to start off, and I'm just going to start off with a little bit of pale blue, and I'm going to do something a little bit different. Blue kind of blends in and works with everything. So I'm going to start the picture today with sketching with my paintbrush. I've done this before, and it works okay, but it's fun to try it. So all I can say is if you don't happen to have a pencil around, you can sketch it out a little bit with the brush, and maybe it might come out a little bit more relaxed. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Let's put a pumpkin right up in there somewhere, okay? And let's see, we'll come across and put something over in here. It could be an apple. let's see, a potato. Oh yeah. How about those large russet potatoes? They're nice, a nice baking potato. And then we've got some maybe another apple over in there. And let's see, what else? Oh, how about another pumpkin off in there, off in the background? Put a little stem on that. This one could have a stem going the other way. Now, you could show a little bit of the sky, possibly. A little bit of sky up in there if you want to put a little bit of sky in. And sometimes while the paper's still wet, I just dash some color across there for some sky showing through. This could be a still life just sitting on a bench outside. Okay, let's put some blue sky across here. I usually use, for the sky, I usually always use a larger brush, and also it's usually a flat brush. This happens to be a round brush, but it doesn't really matter. And then I usually start at the top, like I'm doing here, and doing the sky, okay? As we get down into here, we can do something else. Now, let's see, I'm talking about apples and pumpkins and things of that sort. Potatoes. Okay. It could be some corn, maybe an ear of corn. You might stick something up in there. Something over here. Oh, yeah. Sometimes there's a lot of straw. So you might have some strands of straw popping up out of this collection you have here. Okay. Now you see it runs a little bit, the color, but we're sketching with a paintbrush, and you can use different colors. I tend to, when I sketch though with a brush, I usually use blue. Blue kind of goes in with about it. All the other colors, it mixes good. I don't know what else we could put in. Maybe a couple smaller shapes in here. I don't know. Just let's put 3 of something there. And we got 2 apples. How about another apple? Maybe in here, possibly. Something over here. Okay. So we're getting sort of a little bit of a layout. Now, one thing about when you paint with the brush, at least it shows up better at home. You'll probably notice the sketch a little bit better at home. Now, I don't spend an awful lot of time with planning it sometimes. This apple here might be too centered. I usually try to stay off center, and I indicate sometimes with a little bit of a pencil mark here and on the tape, so I know where the center is. So that apple might be a little bit on center, but we'll see if we can disguise it a little bit. Now, where you'd want to start, it doesn't really matter too much. We know that there's various types of apples. Some are green, some are yellow. Then you have the ones that turn color. You know, they start out greenish color, and then they have a red and some lighter spots on them. So the apples can vary a little bit in color. Let's do this one. I'll start off with the base color being yellow for this one. Now this is a small brush. Probably I could go with a larger round. But this is just filling in the base color anyway, so you get something like that. You might want to put, that repeats this color somewhere out here. These could be grapes or something. Not that, I don't know if we harvest grapes in the fall though. Cranberries we do. We put some cranberries in there. We'll do that. Let's see what else. Let's put a little bit of yellow over here. Something like that. Kind of, sort of triangular, you know, the distribution. And we're going to have straw, we'll have some straw, we'll have different color straw back here. Eventually do something with that. Okay, now I think I'm going to use some, this is some nice orange here. And because the pumpkin's a little bit on the large side, so let's use a little larger brush here. Oh, this one would work pretty good. Okay, we'll use some orange in here for the pumpkin. Put that in. Okay, now you can wet this if you want, just wet it, or paint wet on the dry, that's fine. Now, when you sketch with a brush, you're going to find your colors do run, a little bit. That's bound to happen, but that's okay. We can always hide it with something else. A stem or leaves in there when we put some leaves in. Okay. Let's get it down into here a little bit more around the potato or summer squash or whatever it might be. Okay. Now the pumpkin does have some markings on it. So sometimes you can, while we're at it, you can pull through the pumpkin. See how you can put some highlight on there like that. It kind of goes around. I haven't put the stem on that yet, but you can do that. Want to try the potato? Now the potato, it can be sort of a brownish color, and I'm just watering the brush down a little bit here. And using some raw sienna for the potato. Yeah, and you can use some of that brown, like sepia, dark brown, okay, on the potato. So you put a little bit more texture into that. Okay. Now you can have some fun with this. This is kind of a free painting here. And could be a summer squash in there too. Not a summer squash. What am I thinking of? Oh my gosh. Butternut squash, something like that. Now again, when you paint, you can put like the brush down and pick some of the paint off like that. And you could add like a little highlight to the surface of the squash. Okay, yeah. Let's see, what else? This is going to be another apple in the foreground. You could keep it sort of yellow if you want. What do they call those? Granny apples? Something like that. Let's see what we can do. Put some yellow on this surface here. There you go. 1, 2, 3. You got the triangle working there. We got a triangle working off here. Okay. Now I mentioned something about cranberries. I didn't paint any cranberries in, but that doesn't say we can't add some more cranberries in there. It's sort of a reddish color. They're the type of berry that kind of turns color as it goes along. Because we have quite a few cranberries down in this area of the country. A lot of cranberry bogs around the Cape and, around Wareham and places like that in this area. I think they even have a bog up at the Patriot Place, I believe. What do we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever. Put those in. 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, 8. Add another one over there. You vary the size a little bit. Now, what else did I say we have? This could be something, whatever something is. If you really get hung up a lot of times, you can kind of put some like corn stalk or something in there to fill up that space that you may have. So having said that, maybe put some strands of that in there. You can go to the edge. You can put things right to the edge of your paper if you want. When you do that, it breaks up that large space all around the area. Okay. We can put a little bit of ground in here, possibly. Go right into the corner, right to the tape. And I might want to make that a little bit darker. I don't know if I get, or lighter. Let's try this one. I think this is the darker. No, that's green. I'm sorry. Not to say that we can't put some green in there also. So I might do that a little bit later if I need to. So anyways, I'm just looking for something a little deeper color. See what this does. Okay. I usually have, sepia is one of the colors I always keep around my in my basic set of colors. Okay, what do you say? We could use that up in here, maybe? Up in there for something. I'm not sure what that might be, but it can be something that's, what stays orange, or what stays orange. I'm thinking of the tropical stuff. But there's some vegetables that do stay a little bit green. Maybe carrot tops or something like that might be back there. Again, 1, 2, 3, maybe fill those areas in, triangle working around. Now, you might get to a point where you say, you know, this isn't bad. It doesn't look that bad. I may stop here. I don't know if I've had that ever happen, if I've stopped that soon, but sometimes you can. You can do that. See, that color's really dark. Go right to the edge. Now, if you want to allow some a lot of white highlight to come through, that's one of the characteristics of watercolor. You can have a lot of white coming into it. Outline when you go around a shape, so you leave some white around it. You don't have to go right up to the edge of it. Okay, all right. Now, that's a little bit green, so I usually put some of that brown into it, make it a little bit darker. Okay, there we go. This would be something else out on the outside. You know, harvesting tomatoes, I don't think we would do that so much. Okay, around there. Clean it up a little bit around the contours here. I like it to go a little bit solid into the corners. Kind of lock it in a little bit. Okay. There you go. Now, when you keep hitting your water, what happens is that you're putting the color in a little bit, it turns a little bit lighter. Okay, around in here. Now, if you get to a particular point, when you're working sometimes, if you're getting a little bit too dark, you may have to slow up a little bit and what I do sometimes, if I get into a dark area, while it's still wet, I see how I can lift some of that out, bring back some of the highlight in these areas. See how that comes out pretty good? Want to be careful though. You want to always find a clean, dry spot on your towel when you're sometimes doing this blotting. So you can create different things in there. I may put some shapes of leaves in there as I go along. Depends on what you want to do with it. See how you can crumple the paper towel up, and you can use that sort of like a sponge. And when you press down, you can get some texture out of that when you're working. And a lot of people say, how do you get that effect? Oh, that's very difficult. No, not very difficult. All you're doing is taking a paper towel, crumpling it up, and hitting a wet spot. Press down into a wet spot, and you get some texture out of it. Okay, so much for that. Now, let's see I got to get back here a little bit. Let's use another brush. And of course, I'm letting some of this dry a little bit so that I can come back in and put some more color into it. I'm trying to get more of that red. Let's see if I'm using too much of the orange. I'll try some red there. Real red. Okay, let's see what happens here. That's better. And other things we don't get too much, they come along early. Of course, you get some pears and peaches. They're sort of an earlier flower. Where else cranberries can use a little bit of darker color in them. Some darker color on them. It's like decorating a cake here. Jumping around with color. Some artists have a real knack for it. They just touch it and like magic, Sometimes I put a little bit of white spots on the cherries or the cranberries, make it kind of jump out a little bit more. Now, let's see what else we can do. How about putting a stem on your pumpkin, huh? Something like that. We got something over here. Didn't we have something in back? I don't know. We'll put a stem on that out here somewhere. Okay, now, so you're working around this, and there's certain things you want to show up a little bit more noticeably. So you can do that. Add some more color into the apples or whatever you want to do with it. Okay. All right. Now this is very colorful. Kind of jumps off the page here. And I'll take another, we'll blot some of this. Brings out some of the texture. Okay. All right. A lot of times when you do this type of a painting, sometimes you're sort of being more spontaneous, and it seems like when you come back and look at it, you say, "Gee, I don't remember putting that brush stroke in there, but I must have. I was the only one in the room, so I had to have done that." See what else I can do. Maybe put some markings in. Of course, you do have to let certain areas dry before you kind of put some of these markings on. The pumpkin may have some little lines in it. Kind of go around like that. Almost like a basketball shape. And you can put, the potato can have some specks in it. They call it the eyes in the potato, right? Something like that. What else? Put a stem on an apple. You could put some leaves on it too. Get some more green here. Yeah, you could have like a leaf coming in. Something like that on the stem. Something out here. Something over here. What I haven't put in is some little stems and vines. You can mix that in here. Kind of add to it. Now this is it's going to be sort of a semi-abstract. You could probably identify, you know, that they're vegetables, but we're not spending a lot of time with getting too fussy with it. We're just kind of putting things in at random here. Now, I think when I did the sky, I probably should have put just a little bit more blue up in the corner here. Yes, you know, when it dries out, a lot of times it doesn't show up, so you have to add a little bit more color into it. So where did I have that blue? Over here somewhere. Okay. Yeah, just put some blue back in. Right across here. Okay. You gotta kind of bring it to the edge, because when you put pull the tape off, you kind of lose it. So we'll add some more color into here. Kind of dance around a little bit with the brush. Make sure you go right to the edge, right to the edge. Fill that right in. Got too much white in there, just fill it in. Kind of hide it here and there. Okay. Now, when this dries a little bit, I can always add something else in there. Even if it's only a shadow, you know, just put a little wedge like a shadow in there, so you don't see too much of the white shape, and it makes something else show up around in here, something over in here. You know, fill in some of those areas with color. Around in here. I don't know if you've ever spent a lot of time looking at some of the contemporary artwork that they're producing nowadays, but it works in modern homes. You know, you can't really take a contemporary artwork and put it into a colonial home. It just seems so much out of place. And so when you take modern art, it has to be with the colonial everything, you know, the furniture and whatnot. It has to go with the furniture in the home. Put a little wedge in there. Okay, where it needs something darker. Okay, give it some texture. Jump around. This doesn't show up much out here, so we might want to do some more with that. I'm going to, let's see, put some more straw out in here. Add some more texture into that. Maybe over in here more. It's a distribution of the texture as well as the color. Sometimes it gets a little bit busy in spots. You have to kind of fill in some of those areas, kind of solidify them a little bit more. Something in the background. sometimes if I have room, I put a corn, one of those corn stalks, I guess, out there. We used to put them in the yard occasionally. You could pick them up at some of the farms, that was selling plants and things in the fall. And we used to put some of that out, put a couple more eyes on the potato, something like that. This could be even a squash. Maybe, I don't know. I think it's a little bit late for cucumbers, but, it could be like a zucchini squash or something that's out there. Give it some texture. Okay, around here. All right. Put a little bit of texture on that. A little shadow underneath, shadow here, whatever. So if things are starting to look okay, I think this gets a little dark in here, so let's kind of hit that in there a little bit, lighten that up. Lighten it up a bit. Okay, so we're getting there. Now, this is done very spontaneously. You can slow down a bit. You can slow down quite a bit. You can put, maybe have more background, and you could have like a fence, a rail fence back in here, have like, something for a backdrop, a fence that goes off over and back here. So there's a lot of little texture that you can put in to the picture. Where it gets smudgy, sometimes what I do, I just take and put a little wedge in there like that, just to break that up, or if there's too much of an empty spot here or there, just fill that spot in with maybe a stem of something off of the plant. So let's see what we got here. If you want this to show up, kind of outline it a little bit more. It doesn't have to be with blue. You can use whatever color you want. Okay. Things like that. Now, what happens if it has too much white in it? It has too much highlight. Sometimes you can outline it a little bit more, and you can add something else in there. You know what I do sometimes? A little blueberries. You can put little berries in there. With some of those, create some texture there. I don't know if blueberries can be considered a fall type of plant. One thing about blueberries, they kind of come from different parts of the world, so that we can almost get blueberries almost 12 months out of the year. But they come from different countries, Argentina and all those places like that, Peru, whatever. Just add some texture. Want that pumpkin to show up a little bit more, probably darker shadow under here. Shadow, shadow, shadow. Now, a lot of times if you get too specky, you could take some of those shadows and you can erase them. You can just rub them out. You don't have to have that much in there. And that's the same way with anything, especially with watercolor. You can erase a lot of that out of there sometimes. See what we can do over here. You can have some stems showing too. I tried to put a fence back there, but it sort of kind of settled into the grain of the paper. It doesn't show up as much. Okay. Might need something across here. How about some more blueberries, huh? With some dots in there? Whatever you fill it in. Now, I'm going to remove eventually the tape here, so what you want to have to do is make sure you got everything kind of filled in so it's not too bumpy around the edges when you take the tape off. You make sure that it's filled in more. Okay. Now you can certainly slow down when you paint too. I kind of whipped through this a little bit fast today, but you certainly can slow down a little bit, probably plan it out a little bit more. I started right in today with painting with the brush. I sketched with the brush, and then, but that's okay. But sometimes it may not be probably the composition that you're looking for. Now, the only thing I'm thinking of now is what I could put in here that would kind of counterbalance it a little bit more. This looks a little bit lighter in here. You can take like a scraper. Sometimes I use a piece of credit card, and I scratch the paper so that you show some of the white showing through. So because some of the berries, like blueberries and maybe cranberries and stuff like that, they have a little bit of shine to them. So you see a little bit of reflection off of the plant. Even apples do that, the same thing with apples. Okay, so that's if you want. You can come back with your white. I usually use white acrylic paint. You could use Chinese white too, and that works. But the other thing is, it takes a lot to hide some of the darker color, whereas the other type of paint covers a little bit better. Okay, all right, so here we go. Let me just clean these brushes off a little bit. That's one thing you want to make sure you do too. Make sure that your brushes have been rinsed off before you put them away. I usually rinse them off and then pinch them out a bit. And if they don't have too much color coming out of them, I think they're okay to put away. Try to keep a point on your brushes, the pointed ones. Keep them, the flat across the bottom. Make sure it stays flatter. And when you clean up, they have cases that you can put your brushes in too, so that a lot of times they don't get too bent, you know. I've seen that happen before. So now I'm letting this kind of settle in. I can come back and I can add a little bit more texture to it if I want, or I can just touch it up. Now this, I cleaned the brush off, by the way, so it should be clean. But you can reactivate. Let's say if I wanted to pull something out of here, reactivate the watercolor and just pull it away, and see how you can make things get lighter or darker, rather. See how you can shade it. So things blend in a little bit more. You know, they don't jump out as much. You can do that with any area. You can take this, wet it, pull it in. Take some of the edge off. You might have too many sharp edges all the way around. So you could pull some of the edges in, or you can pull them out. Whatever you want to do with the painting or whatnot. I call this style sort of semi-abstract because, yeah, you've left some fussy detail out, but you haven't lost the subject. You can still tell. Like I said, you can still tell it's a pumpkin or an apple or whatever it might be. You want to soften this out? The brush has some water on it. just pull a little bit away from the edges of the paint. See how you can take that down, soften that out? That's kind of loud in here. Let's quiet that down a little bit with the paint that we have on the brush. See how you can... Now, here's the thing though. You can do too much too. You can start pulling everything out, and pretty soon your picture's going to be all too dark. So that's a problem that you may have there too. You know, so you have to be careful. Sometimes if I feel if it's getting too dark, I just blot it. If it looks too heavy in one spot, I just blot the paper. You know, lighten it up a bit. This is kind of a solid area through there. You can lighten it up, and you can put a lighter color into that. Another thing too, you can't let your colors kind of run too much into each other either. You have to be careful about that. So you don't want everything kind of bleeding into it. It's so too much. Now, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to see if I can get this tape off. Have I got all the edges covered? A little bit more here. Just touch this up in here. I want to make sure there's no edges, the outside that hasn't been covered. A little bit more in here. Okay, come around there. Just fill it in a bit. Now, like I said, at any given time, you can come back into this and you can scrape it. I don't know if I don't have a piece of plastic with me today, but you can take it and scrape it and so forth, do different things with it. You can use your fingernail too if you want. Scratch it. If you want to scratch it a little bit, you can add some texture to it. Okay, something like that. Use your fingernail. You can actually pick at it a little bit. If you want to show, let's say if you want the paper to come through, highlight on that, maybe on the berries. It's better to use a knife, but you can pick at it with your fingertips. And this is still like a darker area there. You can always put some highlighter texture into that. Okay, you can see how you can work this, okay? Now, let's see if I can take the tape off. Usually, a lot of times I leave the tape on overnight so to make sure it's dry. If you take it off while the paper's still wet, you just have to be careful you don't get your fingertips on your false mat that you created here with the tape. There we go. Now, I'm not saying this is what I do a lot of times. These aren't finished, polished works of art. If I was going to do this, I'd probably slow down a bit. And instead of trying to do the fruit and things from memory, I'd probably buy some, different apples from the store or whatever other not foreign, but fall food chain, the food would fall under that time of season. Okay, take the tape off. Whoops. And you clean it up a bit. Now, even with the cleaner edges, it's looking better. I'm still not crazy about in here. See, it's a little bit too smudgy. So I just let it dry out real good. You can pick at it, scratch into it, or add some white acrylic paint or whatever on it, and kind of bring out some highlight. This in here could have a little bit more texture there. Okay. Now, when this dries out, it's going to be a lot lighter. You know, it's going to be a lot lighter. Everything will lighten up quite a bit. Maybe the cherries, I think they must be giant cherries or giant cranberries. It's pretty big for cranberries. So, but that just gives you an idea what you can do. And just, you're kind of painting kind of loose. You're keeping it kind of loose, you know. And you have to do everything kind of the same way. You can't get tight in one area, then kind of go loosey-goosey with some other area. You have to be somewhat consistent when you paint something like this. Okay, so that just gives you an idea how that works. Now, I don't know if there's too much I can talk about. I haven't been over to the museum. They're getting ready to have their auction. The Attleboro Museum, I know they're going to be having an auction coming up, and that's their big money raiser for the year. And also, I guess the Watercolor Society over in Providence, they probably have ongoing shows. I know they do have a show, or had one this past weekend, up at the Taunton Art Association, and so forth. I think some of the other towns, like well, I don't know if Franklin still has a art association that's overly active, but I know Taunton's very active, and I used to go over to Foxborough. They used to have their art shows. They used to have their art shows over at the library, and I don't know if they still do that or not, but that's another something to look into. But a lot of times this time of year is a good time to shop around. If you're looking for a Christmas gift a little bit later down the road after Thanksgiving, you may find some sources. I know when I used to belong to over in Norwood, they used to have art shows after Thanksgiving. So that's something that if you're looking for an original gift for somebody, that would be a nice thing. You know, give them something like a house portrait or one of their pet animals, you know, a cat portrait, dog portraits, things like that would be nice, a nice gift. So keep some of these things in mind. We're trying to get the art world kind of activated again. We lost a couple of years there, and we're trying to build things back up. And I know some of them starting to come back. I think over at the Watercolor Society, I'm talking about the one at Slater Park off of Newport Avenue and so forth. I think they've slowed down the number of days they're open. It seems to me they're open only the latter part of the week, maybe Wednesday, Thursdays, and Friday. So, you know, you could stop over and visit. They're usually open to the public, usually 10 to 4 during the daytime, and stop in. There's usually no charge to go in to visit. A lot of times the artwork is for sale, and you know, it's a reasonable price, not too bad. But I know a lot of the art. Well, I'm more familiar with Taunton, what they're doing now, because I've been able to get a ride here and there up to Taunton to visit some of the shows. In fact, I was just there just recently, this past weekend, and whatnot. So even now it's starting to dry out. You can see, you know, everything's kind of lightening up, getting a little bit lighter. And it's just a matter of deciding what you want to kind of have jump out a little bit, what object or what thing in the picture that you want to be the focal point. That's what you want to concentrate on. So, I mean, with watercolors, it's a lot of fun. It does clean up easier, and your pictures dry faster. I took a class one time in oil painting. I've taken several classes with oil painting, and my gosh, it takes almost 2 weeks for it to start to kind of form a cake over a little bit. But you're going home with this wet canvas, you know, and kind of tricky to carry. Usually watercolor, this is already, right now it's dry. Right now it's pretty dry. The colors absorb into the paper, but you know, just as soon as you hit it with water, it reactivates the color. So you can go on and keep painting a little longer with whatever you're doing. I have, in the past, I usually have a pile of paintings that I've done, and for some reason or another, I never cared to go the extra step of matting them and framing them and so forth. And I just put them in a pile. And then every so often I'll go through my stack of my so-called maybes, and I find one or two that I could doctor up a little bit and you know, mat it and frame it and so forth. Sometimes you can take a part of a painting, not the whole thing that you've done, and just crop it a little bit. And one time they did that at the Watercolor Society in Rhode Island. All they were looking for was as many paintings that you could crop and just bring in, not matted or anything, just bring them in. I had a little stack of 36 I had, that I had just used a little window to move around on the paper here and cropped an area that was interesting. And they ended up selling every one of them, every one of those pieces that I had cropped. And then the people, when they buy the thing, then they decide whether they want to mat it or mount it or, you know, frame it and whatnot, different ways. So you can see even the colors now, see how the colors are sort of getting a little bit softer, they're blending in a little bit as they dry out. And in the morning, everything's going to be really dry, so that if you come in with a dry brush and work on an area that's dry, it's not going to bleed or run into any other section. So it's just a matter of fine-tuning a little bit your picture, and it should be okay. So anyhow, I know I did a little extra talking today about a few things, but we've got to kind of get everybody kind of reactivated into the different subjects, you know, music and arts, and the plays and shows. I love all the arts, and I enjoy all of that type of thing. Paintings and scenery, and even doing a little bit of acting one time when we had a theater group in Attleboro. Well, we still have the theater group. It is called ACT. They call the theater group ACT. I think it means what? ACT, A-C-T, Attleboro Community Theater, something, you know, it's that name, title, called ACT. Well, anyways, so I'm running out of time, and I've used up my time talking here, but I just wanted to talk to the folks at home, and if you ever have any questions, you know, you can maybe phone in or call me at the house. And I still do some classes over at the Attleboro Senior Center, seasonal type things, you know, like I'll run 6-week sessions. Right now we're finishing up a 6-week session over there. I think tomorrow, I usually have classes on Friday over there, and we will be finishing up tomorrow. Not tomorrow, but within the next 2 or 3 weeks, we'll be finishing those sessions. So we'll be running a few more down the road and whatnot. You don't have to be a senior to sign up for some of these activities they have at the senior center. What I guess, I'm assuming that maybe the seniors have priority. So anyhow, brushes up, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for being with us.